The Chicago Bulls have gotten off to a 2-0 start to begin their 2025-2026 NBA season. And in both of these games, the Chicago Bulls, they were underdogs, defeating the Detroit Pistons, and then their second game of the season, defeating the Orlando Magic. So this might come as a surprise to a few people, but not if you've been paying attention to the Chicago Bulls since the All-Star break of last season, which I'm 100% sure the Chicago Bulls fans, they've been paying attention to their team since that point of last season. But that's where the Chicago Bulls, where they really started that momentum that they've carried into this season, and they really became a different team. And it's a couple reasons for that. They actually changed their roster. They moved on from a big part of their team, a big part of their personnel, and that was Zach LaVine, moving him to the Sacramento Kings, bringing in Kevin Huerter from the Sacramento Kings, and also bringing in Zach Collins and another one of their draft picks that they had lost from the San Antonio Spurs. So this was a big time thing from the Chicago Bulls, and we have a bunch of evidence to support it from what we've seen with our eyes, and we also have a bunch of statistical data that supports that this was a big time change for the Chicago Bulls. And just looking at the Chicago Bulls last season before the All-Star break, they had a record of 22-23, which isn't too shabby, but that's where the Chicago Bulls have kind of been stuck at over the last couple of years, and they obviously want better than that. So that's something to keep in mind. And then looking at the Bulls after the All-Star break, after the trade deadline, where they shook up their roster, they had a record of 17-10, and they looked really impressive down the stretch of the season, making it really tough for some of those teams that was trying to improve, their record to get into the playoffs or get into the play-in tournament. And the Bulls were able to capitalize on what they found last season, bring it into this season, and start off to this season 2-0. So since the All-Star break of last season, the Chicago Bulls have a record of 19-10, 9 games above 500. And then also one more thing to look at this season that is pretty impressive. Already some early season adversity as far as health. Coby White, one of the better scoring young guards in the league, a huge part of Chicago Bulls offense. He's been out to start this year dealing with a calf strain, and they've been able to get 2 wins against 2 solid teams. So some impressive victory so far for the Chicago Bulls. And we look at the way that they shook up their roster. And when they shook up their roster, it kind of forced them to play a different brand of basketball. Now, the trade that the major trade that the Chicago Bulls participated in the 2024-2025 season NBA trade deadline is that they shipped away Zach LaVine, one of the best scorers in the NBA, a guy that can get 25 points per game in his sleep. They traded him away, shipped him to the Sacramento Kings, and in return, it was a 3-team deal. They got Kevin Huerter from the Sacramento Kings. They also got Zach Collins, and they also received a first-round draft pick back that they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. So that was the deal that the Chicago Bulls made. And as crazy as it may sound, getting rid of a player as skilled as Zach LaVine, it has been addition by subtraction for the Chicago Bulls. And what I mean by that, looking at the deal, we look at how great of a player Zach LaVine individually. None of the other players involved in the deal, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and you can't use that draft pick into the future. None of those guys are as good as Zach LaVine or produces on the basketball court like Zach LaVine. But since the Chicago Bulls have moved on from LaVine, they have shifted on to a new identity, and they've gotten better in a lot of major basketball categories. And that's what's so great about the game of basketball, because this whole situation has so many nuances. It goes back to the Chicago Bulls going out and making a trade and getting a player like Josh Giddey, because he has taken his career to a next level since he's gone to the Chicago Bulls. And let's not forget, he is a lottery pick. He was just playing on one of the most talented teams in NBA history in the Oklahoma City Thunder, and his playing style just did not fit with the Thunder because they already had guys that they liked with the basketball in their hands with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. Now we fast forward to where Josh Giddey is now. The Chicago Bulls, they decided to kind of shift towards building this offense around Josh Giddey, but also more so building the offense around the entirety of the team. And that's where we see that identity shift at for the Chicago Bulls, mainly on the offensive side of the ball. Once they moved on from Zach LaVine, they became a much more team-oriented basketball team where everybody is touching the ball on everybody is touching the ball on every single possession, and they have the right personnel to play this style of basketball. It really reminds me of the Indiana Pacers, where on any given night, a bunch of guys can beat you as far as scoring the basketball. And another player that has allowed this system to be so successful for the Chicago Bulls, the way that they're playing right now offensively, it's also Nikola Vucevic. Now, since Zach LaVine has gone away, Vucevic has gotten a lot more touches. Not only is Vucevic getting more touches, but when he's touching the basketball, he's not holding on to it as long as he was when he was getting less touches. So that says a lot about the type of basketball that the Chicago Bulls are playing right now. And just looking at Vucevic's skill set, he's such a skilled European big man. We see him getting utilized a lot of the ways that we see a lot of those high IQ basketball big man being used around in the NBA, him getting the ball at the top of the key at that high post. We're seeing a lot more delayed actions from the Chicago Bulls with a lot of guys running off screens. They're getting into that dribble handoff a lot. And Josh Giddey, he also does a great job of pushing tempo, rebounding the basketball for the Chicago Bulls, and getting guys easy looks. So I just want to talk about those two guys, Josh Giddey and Nikola Vucevic. Their skill sets allow the Chicago Bulls to run this offense that gets everyone involved, but it also allows Josh Giddey and Nikola Vucevic to be like star level players within the system. So whenever you can have that, I feel like that's such a good thing, and it's really dangerous for your opponents is when your two stars, your two best players can be stars within the system, and then that system allows everyone else to eat. And we look at some of the other guys that can eat off this system with the Chicago Bulls. We look at the new addition, Kevin Huerter, who is really looking to get back on track after having a shooting slump last season. He has looked so good so far for the Chicago Bulls. You have the new addition of Isaac Okoro. Now, this is a big-time addition for the Chicago Bulls. And just to go back to some of the numbers that we were talking about, man, when Zach LaVine has departed from the Chicago Bulls, they have gotten better on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. Their offensive rating went from 111 before the All-Star break to 115 after the All-Star break, which is a rise around, like, they had like a 3.4, rise in their offensive rating. Their defensive rating got better as well. Their assist numbers got better. Their ball movement rate went up. And this year, with the addition of Isaac Okoro, they have the opportunity to get even better on the defensive side of the ball. And so far through the first two games of the season, just a small sample size, but so far, right now, the Chicago Bulls, they have the best defense in all of the NBA. And Isaac Okoro, he plays a huge role in that. That's the best skill set of his game. So I'm looking at the Chicago Bulls. They have so many weapons. I can't forget last year's lottery pick, Matas Buzelis, who plays that 4 spot for the Chicago Bulls and stands at 6'10" and has a lot of athleticism, has already displayed a lot of potential on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. He can be a really dangerous defensive weapon for the Chicago Bulls, and he also just fits in that mold of that fluent offensive player that you need, or those fluent offensive players and you need in that team-oriented style of basketball. We look at some of the guys who they have on their bench. When we look at Ayo Dosunmu and we look at Patrick Williams, these guys have been really contributing to the Chicago Bulls having one of the best bench units since they've made the trade moving on from Zach LaVine. And to look forward to this season, the Chicago Bulls, they could have more veteran help with a guy like Zach Collins, who just understands how to play his role and how to play the game of basketball. And also Tre Jones. Tre Jones has been really good filling in for Coby White and helping the Chicago Bulls guard situation to begin this NBA season. So that's what I really want to talk about with you guys today. I thought the Chicago Bulls, I think they've been looking really impressive since the All-Star break of last season, and it's a great sign as they come in and capitalize on that momentum on how they finished last season. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.